After the memory wipe spell, Peter's life is already falling apart. Aunt May is gone. His friends, MJ and Ned, don't remember him. He's crashing in a tiny apartment and patrolling at night since that's the only thing that gives him a sense of purpose. However, somewhere out there, in a universe that has nothing to do with radioactive spiders, there's a whole different kind of power running the whole show. Cursed energy, the very thing that fuels jujutsu sorcerers and cursed spirits in the Jujutsu Kaisen universe. Because of a rift, Peter is exposed to a massive amount of cursed energy, which rewrites Peter's brain structure, and he inherits the crown jewel of the Zenin clan, the 10 Shadows technique. The same technique that belonged to Potential Man himself, Megami Fushiguro. The technique allows the user to summon a spiritual familiar, aka Shikigami, from their shadow and command them. And today, we'll see exactly what would happen when Spidey doesn't just inherit that great power. He inherits Mahoraga, the strongest and most uncontrollable Shikigami in the JJK verse. After being exposed to cursed energy, nothing happens to Peter at first. He is completely fine, but after a week, Peter just feels off. He assumes he's simply exhausted, and honestly, that makes perfect sense. He's been through an insane amount of trauma, he's sleeping badly, he's been eating whatever he can afford, and spending most of his nights stopping crime by himself. However, he slowly starts to doubt himself as he starts seeing strange grotesque creatures that he has never seen before. They're curses, but Peter doesn't know what they are. Also, his spider sense, the thing that keeps him sharp and saves him from danger, starts giving wrong signals, which he finds strange. As time goes on, it only gets worse. He's out on patrol, breaking up a group of goons trying to rob a corner store. One of the men turns around and fires at him. Peter dodges it easily, webs the gun, punches another guy, and kicks the third one into a stack of boxes. Everything looks like it's just another easy night for him. However, his spider sense suddenly starts to disorient him. He fires his webs randomly. He freezes. He thinks something is behind him. Peter turns, but there's nothing behind him. Then he looks to his left, but again, there's nothing. This distraction is enough for one of the goons to hit him in the head with a metal pipe. However, he still wins the fight, because come on, a few goons with a crowbar or metal pipes aren't enough to stop him. But something's wrong and he knows it. And then a man with a metal tail and a serious grudge against Spider-Man shows up. It's Scorpion. On a normal night, dealing with Scorpion is small potato stuff. But tonight, he looks like a big one. This is a night Spidey's body is completely rewiring itself from the inside out. His spider sense is tweaking, and his single greatest advantage is actually holding him back. So when Scorpion swings the tail, Peter gets hit by it. He gets clipped, then clipped again and again. For the first time in a long time, Spider-Man feels fear. He's getting completely outclassed by a guy he usually toys with. It's not that Scorpion somehow got stronger all of a sudden. No, it's Peter's own systems betraying him at the worst possible time. He shoots his webs in the wrong direction once again, and that's where Peter completely loses himself. By the time Spidey manages to scare Scorpion off, he's bruised and bleeding. He drags himself up to the rooftop. He sits down and tries to understand what just happened. But no matter how much he could theorize, he simply can't figure it out. While he's sitting there, confused and beat up, something else is happening in his body. All of the cursed energy that he's been soaking up has hit a tipping point, losing people close to him, the trauma of nearly getting killed, and the sheer volume of energy his body has absorbed triggers something inside of him, a technique, one of the most powerful of them all. However, Peter has no idea what he's really going through. He's got no idea what cursed energy even is. He just thinks he had a really bad night and wants to forget about it. So after an unforgettable night, Peter gets home. It's around 2 in the morning. He downs a couple of painkillers and heads to bed still half in his suit. He's exhausted and just wants to sleep, but before he passes out, he does something he's been doing since he was a kid. He messes around, making shadow animals on the wall using his phone's flashlight. It's a little habit he picked up. He then creates a dog head shape with his hands. He has done it many times whenever he struggles to fall asleep. Tonight though, it's different. In the JJK verse, a Shikigami is summoned through the 10 Shadows technique by forming a shadow puppet with hands that match the shape of the Shikigami. But Peter is completely unaware that he has a brand new supernatural technique running through his body. And this time around, his freshly awakened cursed energy actually has somewhere to go. The next morning, he wakes up with the ribs still aching and almost falls out of bed. And that's when he notices that there are 2 wolves. One is pure white with 3 small black dots on his forehead, while the other is jet black with 3 white dots on his forehead. They're big, lean, and powerful. They're like something between wolves and spirits made of shadow. Their eyes are calm, and they watch Peter with no hostility. But Peter, being Peter, does not scream. Okay, he screams a little. However, his brain, which has survived aliens, wizards, and a literal multiverse collapse, is basically like, well, why not wolves now? At first, he doesn't move. The wolves don't move either. He then slowly closes his eyes again, waits 2 seconds, and opens them, hoping he's just imagining things. But the wolves are still there. He slowly reaches a hand out. The white one sniffs it. It doesn't attack. Instead, it nudges his hand, almost asking him to pet it. Peter smiles and says, "Oh, you're friendly." This is not what he expected after everything that's been happening to him lately. But after he blinks and opens his eyes again, they're gone. They completely vanish, leaving Peter shocked. He tells himself that his delusions have gotten so bad that he's hallucinating dogs now. He then spends the whole day distracted. He keeps catching flickers of movement in the shadows, a dog-shaped shadow, a pair of eyes following him from his own shadow. He starts to think that he's losing his mind, and as the days go by, he passes by a small cluttered antique shop. Yeah, the kind of place that sells international artifacts and old books nobody asked for. And over there, he spots a framed print of a black wolf and a white wolf. The same wolves, the same symbols on their foreheads that look exactly like the ones he saw that morning. Peter dashes into the store like he's possessed. The shop owner, who has seen every kind of strange customer imaginable, isn't even that surprised. Peter points at the framed print and asks, "Where did you get that?" Peter asks. The shopkeeper reveals reveals that he picked it up in an alleyway a couple weeks ago. Yeah, the same time the multiversal rift happened. The second Peter touches the book, he feels it, so he buys it on the spot and rushes home to read it. However, his curiosity doesn't stop him from reading it on his way home. As it turns out, the book is a field guide to the 10 Shadows technique. It talks about the Zenin clan, it talks about cursed energy, it talks about Shikigami, and all sorts of other stuff that sounds like magic to Peter. He asks himself, oh, so I can summon these shadow puppies now? He finds information on the divine dogs, the same ones he encountered that day. Turns out this book was dropped on the same day that Peter was enhanced with cursed energy. However, what really catches his attention is something called the Divine General. It says that it's the most powerful of all of them. Even his spider sense starts tingling as he reads about it. With all the warnings about the Divine General, Peter knows it's no joke. So he stands in his room, puts his hands together in the shape of the divine dogs, and tries to summon them. He forms a hand sign. Nothing happens. He tries again. Still nothing. Peter looks at his hands and shouts, come on, shadow puppies, get summoned. And yet again, nothing. He checks the book again to see whether he's doing it the right way. He feels like a guy trying to perform a magic trick at a kid's birthday party. He tries again and again. Then he remembers the shadow puppet he made that night. Peter tries to recreate it. His fingers form the perfect shape, and he puts his focus solely on summoning them. Finally, the shadow on his wall peels itself off the surface, and the white dog steps out. Peter breathes a sigh of relief. He then tries to summon the black dog, and he succeeds. He tells himself that this is already going far better than the last time he fought something out of this world. From there on, Peter starts working through the book's ritual system. He learns that a 10 Shadows user has to summon and defeat each Shikigami to make it their own. So Peter spends the next couple weeks doing exactly that. He summons and subjugates one Shikigami after another. He summons Nue, Toad, Great Serpent, Rabbit Escape, Max Elephant, Round Deer, Piercing Ox. Each one is different and unique from the last, and teaches him something new about how this technique works. And then he gets to the last entry in the book, the one with the big warning label. A gigantic humanoid Shikigami, a massive wheel behind its head, a sword in its hand. It simply looks majestic, and at the same time, deadly. 8-handled sword divergent Sila Divine General Mahoraga. He learns that in the entire recorded history of the 10 Shadows technique, not a single user from the Zenin clan had managed to tame the Shikigami. Not even one. It's not just strong, but it's more than that, and that's what makes it far more dangerous than any other Shikigami that exists. But Peter wants to see what it can do, and he can't contain himself from summoning it. He finds an abandoned industrial area far away from the main block. He doesn't know exactly what will happen. The only thing he knows is whatever he is trying to summon is not going to be easy to deal with. Peter reads that paragraph about 4 times. With his treasure, summon. He messes it up a couple of times, before finally taking a deep breath and summons the Shikigami who stands right behind him. He whispers, let's see if what the book says about you is all talk and no bite, or if you're the real deal. He would soon find out. This book was definitely not lying. The entire floor goes cold. The shadows on the floor stretch and twist unnaturally. The lights flicker, and then it's just there. The Divine General, Mahoraga, a huge hulking muscular humanoid figure with a wide grinning jaw and an alien-like tail appendage extending from the back. You have a sword? That is awesome, Makura, or Mahoraga, or whatever you are. Mahoraga stomps the ground. Peter immediately starts flipping around the wrecked place, but it becomes obvious to him that it's nothing like fighting Scorpion or any other supervillain he has faced. Every hit Peter lands, whether it's a punch or a kick, it does less and less damage each time. The wheel keeps turning. Peter is stuck in a situation that could possibly end him. This is what makes Mahoraga terrifying. Its adaptation isn't limited to something specific. It can almost adapt to anything. In the Shibuya arc, Sukuna fought Mahoraga, who eventually defeated it. However, Mahoraga adapted to Sukuna's slashing attacks too. So Peter does the only thing he can do right now. He runs. Not away, but he buys some time and uses every ounce of his parkour skills to keep Mahoraga occupied. And here's where Peter shows why he is Spider-Man. His greatest power was never really his strength or crawling walls. It's his brain. This is a kid who built his own web fluid in a high school chemistry lab. The kid who was chosen by Tony Stark as his protege. So after understanding physical attacks don't work against the Shikigami, he starts observing it closely. He finds out that the wheel only spins when Mahoraga takes damage, and also notices it takes time to fully process a new type of attack before it can counter. The trick isn't hitting harder, so Spidey starts mixing it up. First, impact webbing, then an electrified web cartridge, followed by an EMP pellet. Peter keeps changing what he uses so he doesn't rely on an attack Mahoraga's already started adapting to. It's not enough to win, but just enough to survive and buy time. Right then, Peter remembers something from the book. He remembers that the only way to take out Mahoraga is to hit it with something completely different before it can adapt to that attack too. And that's exactly what Sukuna also did during his fight against Mahoraga. He spent the entire time slashing Mahoraga over and over. However, after figuring out the Shikigami's ability, Sukuna switched it up and finished Mahoraga with a single attack from his Divine Flame before it could adapt to the new attack. However, Peter can't simply summon Divine Flame like the King of Curses. He has to win by being Spider-Man, and he has already planned for a situation like this. He has a modified thermal cartridge in his utility belt, but the cartridge itself isn't the weapon, it's only the trigger. Peter lures Mahoraga into an abandoned industrial testing chamber, built around an experimental plasma furnace designed to flash vaporize heat-resistant aerospace material. The chamber was made to contain temperatures far beyond anything Peter could produce with his own tech. So he rigs the old fuel system and furnace around his thermal cartridge, turning the entire chamber into one focused blast instead of trying to overpower Mahoraga with something from his utility belt. But would it take out Mahoraga? That's the question Peter is not sure about. Still, he leads the Shikigami, baits a swing, and slides under it to provoke it. Mahoraga is visibly annoyed. He starts closing in on Spidey and nearly grabs him, but that's exactly what Peter was hoping for. As the Shikigami lands in the right spot, Peter activates the cartridge. The furnace ignites around Mahoraga all at once, concentrating the full plasma blast inside the sealed chamber before it has time to adapt to a new phenomenon. The blast completely incinerates the Shikigami, and with that, Peter is finally able to take it down. He summons Mahoraga as the Shikigami kneels in front of him. The massive ancient creature that was supposedly untamable is waiting for Peter's command. Oh my god, no way that actually worked, Spidey says. And just like that, Peter has done something nobody would have expected. He has defeated Mahoraga. He won because he studied the problem, understood the adaptation, used his spider sense, and his technology, and most importantly, created the perfect environment around him. Peter Parker did what Peter Parker always does. He found a way using science. Using Nue, he flies home and stares at his bedroom ceiling as he wonders how the whole thing started, all because he made some shadow puppets that night. With Mahoraga in his arsenal, Peter is far stronger than he has ever been. At the same time, he is terrified of what he's capable of now. So he writes notes. He creates rules and sticks them to the walls of his apartment. Rule number 1, never summon Mahoraga unless absolutely necessary. Rule number 2, never assume Mahoraga will solve everything. And finally, rule number 3, never forget rule number 1 and 2. Peter looks at the rules. He also becomes more versatile than he has ever been. His spider sense tells him where the danger is. His tech gives him different options for attacking. His webs let him control the battlefield. His Shikigami gives him support. And Mahoraga adapts to phenomena that he can't handle. The divine dogs become his favorite as they're perfect for tracking criminals. Meanwhile, Nue gives him aerial support. Toad for assisting him with rescue situations. Rabbit escape for distractions. Every new Shikigami has given him options to deal with whatever gets thrown at him. Also by now, Peter has memorized the entire book cover to cover and has a clear idea of what each Shikigami is capable of. Anyways, it's time for the Scorpion rematch. Eventually, Scorpion and Peter have a fight. Standing there, Scorpion is confused. Spidey just smirks and tells him to brace himself. Before Scorpion can do anything, his tail is sliced in two. Scorpion can't believe what just happened. He has no clue what he's fighting against. All he can sense is something invisible tanking his attacks before he gets pinned down for good. The whole fight is less than a minute. This is probably the fastest Spidey has brought a villain to his knees. And just like that, Spidey tackles other villains like Rhino, Tombstone, and the Hand. Peter believes he has cracked the code. He believes he has learned to use Mahoraga less like a panic button and more like a chess piece. But there's a problem. Peter is still Peter. He wants to save everyone. He wants to stop every criminal, and he wants to make sure nobody gets hurt. With Mahoraga and the other Shikigami, he's capable of dealing with more enemies without breaking a sweat. At the same time though, having access to something that's strong also brings out a different kind of problem. It changes how one sees a problem, and Peter starts noticing it. At first, he used Mahoraga only against enhanced criminals who could actually push him. Then it was against dangerous criminals carrying alien weapons. Then he finds himself thinking about Mahoraga in situations where he could still handle things himself. A heavily armed crew breaks into a warehouse using stolen Chitauri tech. Peter arrives. They shoot. Peter dodges. Usually he would web them and dismantle the weapons himself. But this time, Peter forms the hand signs. The shadows spread. The wheel appears. Mahoraga rises. The fight ends in seconds. These guys were dangerous, but Peter still didn't need a literal war god to stop them. And that's the part he doesn't really think about. However, one night he stares at his own hands. The ones he uses to form the summoning shape. He has a thought that scares him. He has a thought. Since day one, his entire identity has been about being the guy who does things the right way. Someone who fights smart because he has to. Someone who wins through effort and heart. But somewhere in the last few weeks, Peter has started leaning on Mahoraga, the way you lean on a crutch when you don't actually need one. Unfortunately, he brushes it off. He tells himself he's just being efficient. He believes that using the best tool for the job is just being smart. And while he technically isn't wrong, he's also not entirely right. Also, little did he know, that choice is about to get a lot of people hurt. After Herman Schultz, aka Shocker, sneaks out of prison, he manages to recover replacement equipment and rebuilds his gauntlets. Now, Shocker is not exactly a top-tier threat. He's the guy who's made the new Shocker after Toombs murdered the previous Shocker, Jackson Bryce. He almost defeated Spidey, but Ned distracted him, which gave Spidey enough time to escape and web him. This was all the way back in Homecoming. Now he's there to take revenge for what Spidey put him through. To get his attention, Shocker tries to pull off a robbery and fires his gauntlets wildly in public. Spidey arrives, and seeing Shocker terrorize the civilians makes him mad. But this time around, Shocker has come prepared. He fires a dart that temporarily paralyzes Spidey while he's completely caught off guard. Peter still finishes summoning Mahoraga and tells it to take Shocker down before the paralysis fully hits him. Because of that, Peter starts getting dizzy right after giving the command, a decision that he would go on to regret. He summons Mahoraga right in the middle of a crowded street. That too against a guy with a gauntlet and zero superhuman powers. The second Mahoraga manifests, the entire street changes. Car alarms go off from its presence, and Mahoraga, being what it is, doesn't really hold back. It's not built to pull punches, since in its universe, it never had to. It follows Peter's command to take Shocker down, and swings so hard that it sends one car flying into another parked car. The impact literally folds two cars together like a tortilla, and things only keep getting worse because Peter's too dazed to guide it or change its command. Mahoraga keeps moving towards Shocker, while Shocker heads straight towards a bus stop, packed with people who just wanted to get home. When Peter finally regains his senses, he watches all the chaos unfold, as Mahoraga closes in on Shocker besides the bus. He sees it happening in what feels like slow motion. He screams, "Mahoraga!" and orders the Shikigami to stop moving. Mahoraga stops. stops, but the damage from Peter's earlier command is already moving. One of the cars knocked loose by the fight is sliding straight towards the bus stop. Peter throws himself in front of it using every ounce of his strength. He physically redirects the car at the absolute last second to reduce the impact. It works, barely. Still, the impact shatters the glass, which traumatizes the passengers. Luckily, there's no casualties, but it was so close. If he was a second late, multiple people would have died. A mother with a stroller was standing less than 10 feet away. A kid on a skateboard was sitting right on the bench. Peter can't believe what he had just done. He immediately dismisses the Shikigami as soon as he can breathe again. He sits there on the wreckage of a storefront. He watches the paramedics check on people who got hurt, all because of his one single mistake. This is a moment where Peter truly sees the 10 Shadows technique as something he needs to be careful with, because up until now, this has been a fun power fantasy. He was already powerful enough to take on aliens and other threats even before he got an absurdly overpowered weapon. He remembers Aunt May's words, "With great power, there must also come great responsibility," and this finally catches up to him. Peter goes home that night and plans to not summon Mahoraga anymore, not because he's scared, but because he's afraid. He's afraid of his decision and how easy it was for him to summon Mahoraga. While Peter is going through an existential crisis, remember that crack that let cursed energy into Peter's world? Well, that was never fully sealed. Because of that, the influence of the JJK universe is greater than ever, and is giving birth to stronger curses in the city. After the recent incident, negative emotions are at an all-time high. That's exactly what curses need to manifest. They're born from and feed on negative human emotion like fear, hatred, and despair. All that residual dread has been quietly gathering in cracks in the city. The curses are feeding off every scared 911 call, every panicked headline, and every resident who has started to wonder if the city is safe. This gives birth to a massive curse, looking like a nightmare, stitched together from every fear in the city that has been quietly creating ever since the rift opened. It's so strong that Peter's spider sense goes haywire. It's something way beyond anything Peter has faced. Simply, big potato stuff. He understands that if he doesn't step up, the city is doomed. But he's afraid that summoning Mahoraga might end in a disaster like last time, so he summons Nue to get closer to it. He orders Nue to strike the massive curse with lightning, but it does nothing to it. He quickly summons Toad to save the civilians trapped nearby, but Spidey knows simply rescuing people isn't enough. He has to get rid of the monster before it's too late. He summons Great Serpent and Max Elephant to try and stop the curse from moving forward, but the curse overwhelms both Shikigami, and Peter dismisses them before they can be destroyed. With his gadgets not working against the curse, he summons Piercing Ox, which crashes it into the curse and sends it into a building. Just as Spidey celebrates that he has finally taken it down, the curse gets back up, and nearly destroys Piercing Ox before Peter dismisses it too. Then the curse slams Spidey into the ground. Spidey wakes up. He sends Nue back. He hears people screaming. Peter looks at them. He realizes that none of his other Shikigami are strong enough to actually fight or contain the curse. He's forced to make a tough decision. With no other option, he summons the Shikigami he never wanted to summon again. He chants, "With this treasure, I summon Mahoraga," as the Shikigami spawns behind him. Seeing the Shikigami once again brings back bad memories of what happened last time, but he has no other choice, as Mahoraga is his last hope. He then summons his toads as support to help him and Mahoraga. However, before Spidey can team up and attack the curse together, Mahoraga slices the curse in half as the massive curse gets one-shotted by the Divine General. Spidey is dumbfounded. Well, who wouldn't be? Seeing this massive curse get killed when he and the other Shikigami were struggling the whole time was not something he expected. Spidey is finally relieved. As the toad licks his face, he laughs at how ridiculous it was for him to not summon Mahoraga in the first place. Spidey just looks at it and says thank you out loud, and honestly, if there's one thing we know about Peter Parker, it's that he was probably always going to figure out how to carry that weight anyway. But Peter Parker is still Spider-Man, still the kid who jokes when he's terrified, still the hero who gets knocked down and gets back up. And now, Peter has to carry the weight of his powers as he takes on supervillains, and potentially powerful special grade curses, and guards the city every single night.